Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to a quarantined edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 11th of March to the 17th of March. I hope you don't hear anything else besides me. My mom's laughing at Netflix downstairs. I'm so happy I got the camera back, because I got a lot of nice videos to talk about, and first we're going to talk about the videos that I thought were not good. As per usual. Let's talk about a video from gonshairline. I don't know, it's kind of a weird title name if you ask me. Anime fights that everyone wants to see. This is a video talking about, and it's number 1 by the way, but it's in the thumbnail. That, we don't do series numbers on YouTube anymore. That's not algorithm friendly. But this is definitely a series he would like to continue because he seems to like talking about this a lot. Basically fanficking who would not really... he sort of dabbles into who would win in a fight, but basically he's like, man, I wish Jiren and Broly fought each other. And look, I don't want to bully and make fun of someone who's this like, that this is something that's fun to think about, and I get that. I could kind of imagine it being a little cringe for some people who like these shows, where it's like, yeah, but the narrative, like, what thematic and narrative purpose would it serve to have Hisoka and Izumi fight each other? Like, I get there's a beef there, but like, and it would be interesting to see, but part of what makes a great fight in an anime, at least I think so, is what it means for these characters to fight each other. And there's some moments where he's like, yeah, I wish we saw this fight. Like he kind of, the first one he talks about is Annie versus Mikasa, and how the anime cuts away from that fight. I'm not sure if the manga, I don't remember that happening actually. If the manga shows that, or if it's a later flashback of like Annie talking about that time and maybe it was saved for later and he just forgot that happened. I feel like Attack on Titan's not the kind of show that leaves that result, without you hearing about it. That seemed kind of weird to me. And I think it's important that he talks about later. Maybe it's narratively important to hold, to keep that under wraps. Where he talks about two characters in One Piece, the ice general and the lava general. I haven't seen One Piece yet. Sorry, guys. Where like they talk about the fight and they kind of tease it, but they don't show any of it, and they show like the aftermath instead. And it's like, whoa, it was a brutal fight. They fought for 10 days and then this guy won. I think it's important to withhold something like that because you're able to kind of lend it to your imagination. You're like, oh, that must have been intense. And that's what's important about that scene, narratively. Like, you don't really need to see it, but it's like, oh, for your enjoyment and stuff. So this is what that guy's kind of lamenting. But otherwise, just kind of like, man, I wish we saw Kid Sasuke fight Kid Neji. And I haven't seen Naruto either. Here's the thing, it's like, he's talking about pretty much nothing but shonen stuff, like very surface level. And, he's not outright recommending anything. And he's just kind of pining for things that didn't happen. I just found it a little silly. But I think the reason I want to talk about this, that's not enough to call it a not good, right? This is kind of, it's like, oh, but what was so bad about my video that look, I put on the playlist so that everyone can watch it, but, so I'm technically still recommending your video. I'm not dissuading anyone from watching it. But I want to talk about it because there was something about it that I was... I'm getting this, the thing that I don't like seeing in this particular sphere. If you want to foster an audience, and I mean, he's clearly doing better than some of us in terms of numbers and success. But like, I think it was at the beginning of the video, he was like, man, my channel's doing real well, guys. In only 3 months since I started it, we got 30,000 views per video and at least 2,000 likes for... And it's like 2,000 likes on this video, and we'll make a part 2 of this. That, like, he clearly seems to be going off script, and he's just talking off the top of his head. This is like an off script thing. And again, nothing to talk about off script stuff, but it lends to the amount of effort it demonstrates clearly what you're putting into this, the amount of stuff you're putting into this video. Right? And then the actual video content, what you're showing here, there's nice little edits and certain things here and there. But I do not believe for a second that you took from the actual anime clips. Like you got the episodes uploaded and you specifically handpicked the clips that you're showing. I'm pretty sure the way he made this video was, for the most part, looking up this fight or this scene in Hunter x Hunter and Naruto, because these are the shows that he's talking about. This footage is on YouTube, whether it's in an AMV or in a character analysis somewhere. The footage exists on YouTube. He doesn't have to go looking far, so he's just gonna download those clips, either from a clip or from an AMV. Like some of the One Piece footage you show here very clearly is from an AMV. Like the way that it's shifting from so many characters, and I would not believe you if you made this all handpicked yourself. Okay? And so it's like, why do I have a problem with that? When you're clearly pining for, let's get 2,000 likes, let's get this number of views on a video, let's get this road to 100K club, and this is the kind of effort you're putting in, that it's so plug and play, it's so transparent that this is just a game to you, and this is just something to get clout, get numbers, and get followers, and eventually maybe I don't think you have a Patreon or anything like that, so I don't know how much you're really making money, but this is just like it's just a game, you know what I mean? And maybe you're finding more friends and, you know, you want to share your passion and expression with anime and stuff, but I don't feel like you're making a lot of thoughtful observations in these fights, you know? You were just kind of like, oh, that would have been nice to see in a fight. Like, I wonder who would win. What is it? Izumi from Hunter x Hunter, he has his needles and Hisoka has his gum. It's just very shallow observations. And look, this is just my observation, okay? I think you're clearly passionate about what you're talking about, and but you're just not putting it, because you have to put the video out in a week, because that's what YouTube. This is the game, right? It's not. I'm happy Manime Matt doesn't do this. At least Manime Matt's writing whole scripts and editing it very specifically. Like, as much as I talk about how like it stinks that he has to keep making this weekly content in such a obviously manufactured way, at least it's not like this. You know, where it's just making, you're not making any interesting points. You're just kind of having fun, and you kind of just. The game is fun. Getting 30,000 views on a video is fun. Getting 2,000 likes on a video to make another video is fun. Getting people to follow you on Instagram and Twitter is fun. Okay. That's you. I can't really knock the hustle as I usually say. But this is I'm not angry about this video, but it's just something I just want to talk about. It's just like, hey, by the way, this is what we don't like about anime YouTube, at least my opinion. When certain people have problems with it, which we'll talk about. Another video that I didn't think was that good. Misty Chronexia put out a Pokemon video, a filler guide to Pokemon the anime. It's actually a very robotic title when I'm looking at it. To Pokemon the anime. So this is a video of Misty very robotically, technically, going episode by episode, telling you which episodes of the original season of Pokemon from beginning to through Orange Islands is non-canon. Which he acknowledges is like, that's supposed to be when it's a manga and it's not adapted, in an adaptation. But Pokemon the anime isn't an adaptation. But there's a fair number of episodes that don't progress the plot. Like, he doesn't catch a Pokemon, doesn't get a gym badge, a character doesn't get introduced, or something like that. I don't like it. I kind of made something a little similar with Urusei Yatsura, where I pointed out the episodes that like certain characters are introduced in, because it's if you're like, well, who's this character? It seems like a recurring character. When did they get introduced? When I was recommending you random 50 episode random episodes of Earth the Odds were to watch. But I wasn't discouraging you from not watching the episodes. Like, every time he's talking about a filler episode, it's like, you can skip this one. Doesn't tell you what the episode title is. Doesn't tell you what it's about. The only ones he does describe is why when he talks about an episode, why it's canon. Oh, God. He was literally using not canon as an equivalence for filler. As if these episodes, with, like, including the episode where Ash, like, has to, like, hunker down in the cold and his Pokemon are warming him up and everything, that's non-canon. And you're, like, disqualifying it for some reason. It's like, hey, if you wanted to watch the Pokemon anime but didn't want to watch the filler, like, it's just don't watch the anime then. I'm sorry. Like, I don't think anyone would believe that you watched the show if you are like, yeah, I skipped these episodes. Like, I hate that. I hate that, actually. I'm not bothered when people, like, speed up anime 1.5 times. I'm not that it's their choice. And skipping is their choice as well. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They can read the episode summaries and say that. But, like, to say that you've seen it, right, all the way through, like, I get, like, skipping a transformation sequence or something, you know, but it's like, in service of what? In service of what? Enjoying it? Okay. People skip the OP and ED because they really want to get to the meat of the show, whatever. And people can make their arguments whether you should or shouldn't skip any OP and ED. But, like, skipping an entire episodes to the point where there's points in this video where he's like, this episode is canon. This next episode is not. This episode here, so where you're like, canon, filler, canon, filler, canon, like, like, why not just watch them in order? Like, is it really that important for you to understand? Like, do you want to talk about Pokemon for some reason? Because I'm almost positive the way he did this was to look at Bulbapedia or Cerebi or something, and the list of episodes, like, they all list these episodes in detail, and you can, like, literally look at them and be like, did anything interesting happen in this episode? Nope, I'll write that as filler. That's what he did. This is so easy. This is so easy to make. And so it's like, then the real question is why? Why would you make something like that? To recommend people to watch Pokemon, but to skip these episodes? And it turns out that, like, he's so smug about the math at the end, where he's like, 44% of it is filler. Like, so you're gonna skip almost half the entire show. Why watch the show at all? Why skip any of this filler at all? Like, this is ridiculous. I get if it's one thing for Naruto, because people are like, oh, I want to correlate with the manga and everything. That's somewhat helpful. Somewhat helpful. This is fucking Pokemon. What do you need to do that for? You can literally just be like, what does Ash catch in this region? Oh, where are the fights? I'll just watch the fights. Don't say you've seen Pokemon. Don't say you've watched it. Right? It's just so ridiculous. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. I just did not enjoy this video. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Misty said this is one of the first videos he's made that are on a more technical level, that it's like, you know, concretely with math and, like, keeping track of all the shows and stuff. Although, I mean, I don't think it's too much different from his top 10s, to be honest with you, which he hasn't made in a long time. Maybe because he ran out of ideas. Hasn't stopped Anime Recon, at least. Yeah, I don't know. I like him doing mechanical, technical stuff in this way. I don't discourage in that way, but, like, to discourage people from watching these episodes to where you're not even, like, describing why don't watch them, and just dissuading anyone from watching anything, in my opinion, is just ultimately not great. I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm hypocritical in some areas if I'm going to say otherwise in the past or in the future or something, but on the face of it, I really don't like it. Not good. So now let's talk about the videos that I thought were decent. pretty good, I would say. Just the things I want to talk about. The first one is from Animator Dormitory channel, which I did not expect them to upload so quickly afterwards, because I talked about their video last week, their introductory video. But this is a much longer video talking about the low wage problem
in the anime industry.
Period. And this is very good, I think, to have this information out there in a very digestible form, very friendly, visually, stylistic, and very interesting. They have everything's hand-drawn. Well, hand-drawn. Everything's originally drawn sketches and images and stuff, and it's subtitled to be able to make it more accessible and clear and everything. And a lot of good choices here. And the information itself is very interesting. With certain statistics and wages, I didn't even fully process, and it really paints a really bleak picture for these animators. It's not a great situation that they're in, and that's why this Dormitory channel is here, and also the kind of successes it's had. It's not like a full documentary of this particular organization, but they did mention how one of their first residents went on to be an animation director for Attack on Titan, which is really impressive. And then another one was like a character designer, key animator, like a major player in this one animated kind of commercial or stuff or something like that. Something particular for TV, not necessarily, commercial anime the way that we're talking about. So all of that's really great, and I'm really happy this channel exists and that they seem to really be looking forward to making more videos in the future about different topics and really fleshing out this idea as a whole without blowing their load, making it too long and too epic or anything like that. The reason I have it in decent probably has to do with some of its production values are a little weird. It's just some slight blinking and there's something kind of weird about it. They have particular narrators narrating these individuals, and Ryoko is a real person but narrated by apparently someone else. And then this is the person narrating this whole video is the founder of this dormitory project, and I don't know if it's actually him talking or if it's somebody in place of him. I'm not honestly sure. It's surprising if it's someone that seems so fluent in English. I don't know. But then there's some discrepancies with the subtitles. Like you have it as like $550 per month when it's supposed to be $5,500, and the subtitles are different than what the person says, and sometimes that comes off as a little confusing. Like, wait, so which is right? Like they say animation director in the subtitles of Attack on Titan, but then the person is saying that this person was a director in Attack on Titan, and I don't know if that's supposed to be offhand because they usually just refer them as directors, or I guess, but I don't know. There was a level of confusion to that made it for a little bit of a muddied sort of mess, and it was distracting, but also kind of confusing, Generally, I really liked this video, but it doesn't really peak for best for me as the other one did, only because it's like, that was more of the excitement and allure of this video existing at all, and this channel existing at all. But to consistently impress in that way, for me, it was like, this is interesting. It is kind of a neat thing, but not like mind-blowing, amazing kind of thing. That's the only reason why it's indecent. But definitely, if you are not subscribed to this channel already, check it out. I thought this was really interesting. Something to definitely keep an eye on. I got another request video, this time from Flugmorph, wanting me to talk about Digibro's modern, one of his classics. He puts out classics all the time, that sly devil. This one actually ended up getting like 1 million views, like really did a good number. We have accepted mediocrity. What a splash of a video in an interesting time for him. I don't... Was this? No, this was... I think this may have been around one of his meme alphas, but he was also experimenting with he was really struggling with some stuff with like... he was still paying... This is one of Devu's last projects with him, I remember. And this is definitely kind of his opus with him, in my opinion, in terms of the editing dynamism and prowess, and this is kind of the extent of his his abilities that I thought. It was just really interesting. There's a really great explosion of interesting editing choices and lots of high effort, rapid fire of a lot of different. There's at least two incredible montages of very similar looking shots in a lot of anime, and kind of like it's just all over. It's just too much, and it's kind of the media overload, overflow of stuff. And yeah, this is kind of one of Digi's kind of more high bar general complaining and just his big kind of sort of thesis of stuff. But it feels more like an explosion of id, and less than a very cutting to the bone sort of critique of something. That's why I think it ends up ultimately being decent, despite me really liking it when I first watched it. I remember being like, despite its issues of certain takes that are like, whoa, okay, kind of thing. I honestly liked a lot of the heart behind this and the intent and some of the really scathing stuff, and obviously the very impressive editing on display. And I think a lot of that still holds true. But some of the things end up being a lot more weird and kind of tedious at points. That makes it feel a little more of a slog this time when I watched it a second time. And it's been 2 years since I watched it. But yeah, I did take some notes though. I really like his intro, talking about the comparison with mediocre anime with mediocre YouTube, and he's trapped in between the two of them, and consuming this thing that ultimately keeps being made just a product, and it's not making classics, and not putting their best foot forward. With YouTube, which it's a game, it's chug chug chug, it's people just making whatever, and it's constantly losing bleeding money basically. Fair. And I like the comparison to start off with that, but he mostly focuses on anime. He kind of saves YouTube till the very end, and I felt that YouTube at the end talking was accurate, but felt a little too much like bitching to me. Like, yeah, we know. It didn't feel all that substantive and I don't know, creative in that way. Yeah, it was just like, yeah, of course. And it's like, it's incredible how little has actually changed in the 2 years since this video's come out. It's like, yeah, it probably could have been said true for like a couple years before that, and it's a constant struggle, So I don't know. It didn't age, at least, but it came off as far more of a substanceless bitching to me, to be honest with you. I fucking love this roast that he has towards the beginning, where it's like, you ever get your parents to watch an anime and you're like trying to get them to watch something and you're like, look, this is a great story, has great character development, and you're selling it the way that you would, right? And then you sit down with them and it's just so bland and mediocre visually, and apparently like the mom bursts out into laughter because she has so much higher standards at the time. I like it a lot, and this is with Sugi ga Kirei that he's using this for. That was hilarious, but there's a couple things to that where it's like, and this is actually very emblematic of the video as a whole, where it's like the heart's in the right place, and I love that you said it, but the way that you said it and certain things that you're conveniently ignoring, it just makes it kind of ring hollow and ultimately not that substantial of a point that you're making. So it's like, you're just going to assume that your mom has higher standards and she's just going to burst out laughing at the thing that you did. I don't know if most moms, I know my mom wouldn't do that. I'm sure she might get bored of it, maybe. I wouldn't imagine that. But like, the scenario is funny, but I don't think it's all that grounded in reality for most people. I also really didn't like, this was the first instance of this, and there's at least 4 or 5 other instances of this, if not more, that was in very late stage Devu editing, and that it was prominent in Shinsekai Yori, and I complained about it on Twitter at the time when I watched that video. This is probably my least favorite editing choice, period. Never do this. I hate it. I will hate your video. I will instantly like your video less if you do it. Basically manipulating the video clip to make it look worse, like making fun of it, like blowing the face out, like bulging the face out with like video distortion. or like squint, like swirling the eyes, or making it look dumb, like putting clown makeup on the show. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that to make your show look worse. You're detracting your own fucking point. Use what you're talking about and use the show itself to convince people of your argument. Don't manipulate the show to be, look, it's bad. Like, maybe it's funny for you, but I think it's extremely disrespectful and disgusting. I hated it. And he does it several times in this video, and I hated it every single time. It's awful. Never, never, never do it. Please don't. I would rather watch a lot of mediocre to bad anime YouTube content that's just churning for likes and whatever, this mediocre stuff that you're complaining about. I would rather watch that, which is at least trying to be authentic and unmanipulative, than that. Fuck you. Don't do it. It was an interesting point that he was making about Gen Urobuchi, how in the early 2010s, he was just going cranking hit after hit, being involved with Fate Zero, then Madoka, then Psycho Pass, and then the industry let him get away to do Kamen Rider and then Thunderbolt Fantasy, because he admits in the video that's what he wants to do. But why didn't they treat him like Oshi, who... Here, and that was a great description of Mamoru Oshii, where he's like, he made this, and then he got to make this, which was a classic, blah, blah, blah. And that's a great point. That just happens to be Mamoru Oshii's journey. Everybody's journey is different, in the industry. And that's what Oshii wanted to pursue, and that's what he was motivated to do, and had the means to do it. Yoshinori Kaneda wanted to make his classics and stuff, and he tried with Birth, and it didn't work out, so he jumped on Ghibli, and that's what he made. And then he was disillusioned, and then when he's getting back into TV anime in the 90s, he just got kind of disillusioned to it, and he was like, I don't really want to, so he did that, and that would be like complaining, like, why didn't Kaneda make the thing? And it's like, there's reasons behind it. Everybody has their reasons. Gen Urobuchi wanted to make a Kamen Rider series. Maybe he really liked Kamen Rider and he had the opportunity to make one. He's like, I really like, yeah, I accept that project. There's just as much to talk about, like, just as much to blame Urobuchi for than there is to blame the industry for letting him get away. Like, that's just not how it works, I don't think. And it's completely baseless claims. And, like, there's very little using actual sources besides, like, Mal. And a lot of just general observations and watching the actual work. So, I mean, your point's interesting, but it's just not thoroughly convincing, in my opinion. Then he goes into this giant kind of example by example of where's the classics? Where's the Akira and Ghost in the Shell and the stuff we had in the 80s and 90s? And then he kind of gives a couple points, like maybe it's this one, but he gives his generic complaint about it. Oh, the plot's not good. It's just like vague, like, it's just like his personal anime opinion, and that's why it's not a classic. Like, Your Name's a classic. You might not like that movie. Maybe you do. I don't know. You seem to kind of like that movie enough, Digi. But I don't like that movie, but that doesn't mean it's not a classic. It's like classic are just the ones that I like, and then that was what it kind of felt like. You just had a complaint about everything. It's like Silent Voice is not a classic because it stuffed an entire manga series into one movie. That's why it's not a classic, really. Mary and the Witch's Flower, it's just not good enough. Like, it's not a bad movie, but it's not good enough. Like, okay. I mean, fair. Nobody's talking. that movie just kind of came and went. But no harm, no foul, in my opinion. I don't think I don't really get what your point is with doing this. And then you say the closest is Devilman Crybaby, and you find an excuse for it again, even though it's like your anime of the year. I'm pretty sure it was your number one that year. Maybe it wasn't. I'm sorry if I misremember. It was at least your favorite. I loved it. You loved it at least. But you're citing Econ and Best Guy Ever, not thinking it's a masterpiece, as if that's not that disqualifies it from being a classic. That there's dissenters. Like, people don't. There's some people that don't like Akira. There's several people that don't like End of Evangelion. Does that mean it's not a classic? Like that's just weird thinking to me. And it's like they didn't even dub the rap lyrics, and like where's the quality control? And then DeVue just uses a bunch of fan service, like a bunch of fan service shots, and I don't know if that's exactly your decision. Like, did you want that there, or is DeVue making some commentary on Devilman Crybaby? It's like, it had fan service and therefore bad. Like, there was a weird mixed messaging in that part. I was like, what are you talking about? It was especially weird since you do, but like, it would take away from your point, right? So you don't want it, you want to acknowledge it, but then disqualify it, even though it's a little contradictory to your own opinions and, I don't know, weird things. And then, like, he has this really awful Lou take. Like, he's like, oh, it's a Ponyo ripoff. And I get it, you're a big fucking Ponyo fan. Every Ponyo fan hates Lou, apparently. But Lou fans don't care, they just hate Ponyo. Oh, man. But, I don't know. But it was weird when later in the video, you're like, I want to see a Masaki original on Netflix next, because that will be closer to a class, like, you know. And it's like, oh, what about Louis of the Wall? That was a Masaki original. It's like, no, but one that I like. Like, that's what it came off as. It's like, he did do an original. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't know. That was, or series. But like, who cares? If it's a movie, or like, Akira being a movie and Ghost in the Shell being a movie don't take it away from not being classics versus a TV or series. Like, that the format doesn't matter how long it is. That can't be really an argument. So it was weird. It was like, yeah, I want Masaki original. No, I want one that I like. It's like, okay, can't really have both, I guess. I don't know, it was really weird. And it seemed like you were blaming Netflix specifically for Devilman Crybaby not being a classic. I don't know, I think it's the seasonal mindset that people are in, that it's like there's nothing that's like sticking with them. In that case, it has to be a matter of what they find individually, like the person individual finds as special to them, and they recommend that to as many people as possible. I think Nausicaa is a classic. Are other people going to think that? No. That's okay. So I'm going to spread to as many people that do think that. I won't try to convince them of that, and they like the movie. That's more of what I care about, is like enough people see and watch the stuff that I like, rather than like this arbitrary classic status. You know, it's like whatever. You know what I mean? That was just my take on it, I guess. Yeah, it just felt like a lot of bitching at this point, where it's like, oh, there's no Miyazaki's, there's no Satoshi Kon's, there's no Oshi's, no Kawajiri's not making anything. It's like, all right, you're not gonna. I mean, Hosoda's making stuff. Maybe you don't like all the stuff he's making, but he's great. I think. At least he's making original films. Shinkai's making stuff. And there's new people. There's got to be new people to take their place, and you got to give those people a chance. You got to watch their stuff. Maybe they're not Yuasa or anything, but I don't know. Being overly cynical in this way just kind of. I'm happy you were able to vent it out, because you were kind of articulating the frustration that a lot of these people have, for sure. And there's a really great, again, some of the editing in this is incredible, and some of the visual choices. We have some live action segments with like keyboard and have third hand and stuff like that, and some of the stuff is really nice, and it's a fun video to watch at times. But there's just some takes, you know, like you bring up your background character take again about your Sword in the Stranger video, how these background characters consistently look like shit, and then you're like, but Ponyo looks good, and it's like, I don't see too much difference in that. Personally, I think Sword just kind of looks a little muddy, like looks just too brown for me. And yeah, it's just not that memorable as a full movie. And I don't disagree with your take, but like, I don't know. It was just kind of a tiresome complaint personally, and I'm happy you're not dwelling on it too much anymore these days. This is like your final say on it. It was just kind of ugh. I'm not a fan of it personally. And I love this quote from it though. I haven't even seen every Miyazaki yet. Where, you know, And that speaks so much to like my frame of thinking when it comes to watching anime. I'm specifically watching a lot of seminal stuff and stuff that's like, watching every Ikuhara work, watching every Miyazaki, Shinkai, Dazaki. I'm close to watching every Dazaki, which is a huge fucking feat considering how much he's made and how long all those series are. And I like that mentality. I think that's a healthy mentality to have, and that's something we should foster and not necessarily push other things down in service of that. It just felt like your frustration, your fatigue and slog of having to experience this stuff and that your feelings were so genuine that I felt the same way, and it felt that the video itself was very sluggish and tedious and like, ugh. Yeah, and maybe that's taking along for the ride, and maybe that's the intent, the author's intent. But yeah, I don't personally subscribe to that. I mean, I'm more of an maybe that's just my mentality. I'm more of an optimist, I suppose. There's a lot of there's a lot of hand waving when it comes to the modern stuff. You say like, there's interesting stuff, I guess, but good luck finding any of it. It's like, okay, you could have said the same thing for 80s stuff or 90s stuff. There's so much mediocre stuff in the 80s and 90s. Like, yeah, there's a lot of classics that rise to the surface and stuff, and that stuff's fantastic. But there's also a lot of bullshit. And there was this really annoying like clash of like complaining about visuals versus complaining about narrative, because I mean, I have a similar problem with Bennett being completely focusing mostly on the negative and stuff, and he always talks about how much the narrative doesn't make sense when the visuals are so incredible. But like, you can't be like, it feels like you're just going back and forth when it's like, look, a visually impressive show like Violet Evergarden, and then you have this one little complaint about the depth of field you don't like. It's like, oh, that completely kneecaps and cripples the entire rest of this polished ass production. Really? It felt very deflating in that way. And it's like, you can't complain about the narrative kind of lack of interesting things and like birth or a lot of this visually impressive stuff, but then narratively it's just kind of it was kind of a convenient flip-flop wherever you want sort of deal. It's like, oh, if this one's a visually interesting show, I have a narrative complaint. If this one's narratively and thematically really good, I have a visual complaint. And that's just kind of what it felt like, and complaining for complaining's sake sort of thing. I have a lot, I guess I have a lot more negative to say than positive, but the positives are just so much, it's hard to really emphasize how the positives of stuff that I really like about this. That was kind of all of it, really. I hope you enjoyed that. I know it's like a 2-year-old video, but it was, I thought it was really interesting to talk about and revisit for sure. If you have an idea for a video that you want me to talk about that's not this week or, has been a long time, subscribe on Patreon. Maybe I'll talk about it. Maybe. I'll definitely talk about it if you ask me to. Unless I'm uncomfortable with it, which is usually kind of unlikely. But back to this week's videos. Let's talk about another one from Princess Plunderphonics. And I'm not talking about this because you happen to name drop me. I was very, very flattered by that. Thank you. And I'm not talking about this video purely because I was going to talk about this video before you said that. And now I'm like, oh, this is just kind of funny. This is a video he put out called Ampu's Lost Childhood. And it's very interesting comparison of the personal struggles that Ampu has to go through as a child actor, as a child idol, and comparing that to his creative output as someone who's a naturally creative person by being something that... I swear I don't have it. I've been talking for like 40 minutes, okay? I will not panic. Yeah, he's relating it to his own life of being kind of a naturally creative person, constantly having to make stuff, and kind of what the formative thing is, like he has to grow up really fast. And it kind of, the video sort of splits into multiple sections that aren't really named or anything, but it goes into different movements. And so he's talking about his initial life, his kind of personal life at first, starts going into more of the character analysis. Then he has kind of this weird little intermission in the middle where he's just kind of like fast speeding up and like talking about a lot of different stuff and drinking and doing some weird motions and stuff that kind of felt very confusing, but felt more of an explosion of like thing make sort of thing. And he wraps it up, kind of just shitting on AniTube, like for like the last 2 or 3 minutes, which was very baffling and okay. You're like, oh fuck AniTube. I watched this, and it actually was recommended in the recommended list on my sidebar when I was watching your video of this hour and 22-minute video of this guy's like End of Evangelion's a cinematic masterpiece. The thumbnail looks kind of dumb. And it's an hour and 22 minutes on the end of Eva. I really don't care. I'm not going to watch it. But he was complaining about, like, they're all talking about the shonen stuff, or the same 5 Too Deep for You shows, like Eva, Main, Hibine Renmei. I'm like, who the fuck is talking about Hibine Renmei? Besides, like, Beyond Ghibli made a Hibine Renmei video. I think Core may have made one. I would imagine I think it's one of his favorites, if not his all-time favorite. Like, there may have been people who have talked about it, but it's not like the same 5 shows. Like, what are you talking about? I'd love more Hibine Renmei videos and Lane videos, but I don't know where that assumption seemed very baseless. It's kind of similar to with Digi's talk about how like, oh, it's all reaction videos and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, right. It's like, are you watching it? And then he just name drops a couple that he just wants to be hot with, but obviously it's not gonna do that much because, you know, the video's not that, you know, you're not that big yet or anything like that. It's not like Digibro going out and shitting on anime YouTubers for 30 minutes. And you don't title the video that, obviously, but you're kind of taking shots at MathWiz and just you taking shots at Super Eye Patch Wolf. You give a couple to me, which I'm very thankful for. You call some other guy out that I don't remember and seemed a little muddled, but you know, it just seemed like an id explosion. This whole video felt very like, you know, film thing in one take and put a filter in thing and make it, you know, make, you know. And there's a couple of YouTubers like this, I think. I don't watch too much of their stuff because a lot of it ends up being kind of unfocused and blunt. You know, it's not like it's like shooting an arrow, but the arrow is like rounded off, you know, and so it's just going to bounce off the target if that happens. And so what I mean by that is that it's not honed in, it's not really driving in, and the visuals are not specifically playing into it, and you know, not a whole bunch of, I shouldn't say not a whole bunch of care is put into it, but it's like, it very obviously feels like you're throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall, and naturally, and not a lot of it sticks. It sticks enough there was like, oh, there was spaghetti that was thrown at the wall. But then, you know, I liked your analysis of Anpu for sure. But I think if you like made this a script, if you used I like the visual kind of some of the stuff you're doing visually with like the filters and stuff. And there's a definite aesthetic to this video. I certainly wasn't bored watching it. It was just very hard to engage with. It felt kind of like I wasn't immersed in it, you know? I didn't give my full attention to it because it wasn't grabbing me in that way. But I like that you made it. So like the commentary of kind of like anime YouTube bad or whatever, it's like the reason I make these videos is to really talk about stuff in depth and specifically. So there's concrete stuff, and that hopefully the people who watch this video, a lot of them are other creators. And I love that because I wanted to communicate to other creators. It's like, hey, watch out for this. Don't do this. Or this is how you could do something like this better. And give them concrete information that they can use to better themselves. I think what's important is that we don't just complain that AniTube's bad. We have to not only embody it in our own content and be like, okay, don't complain, do it yourself. I think there's actually a video later that I loved that actually kind of made sort of a point like that. Hopefully I mention it. It's a TheCynicClinic's video where I'm going to do it just in case I don't mention it in that video. It's just, you know. But he mentions in his video that like a lot of the So Bad It's Good movies are used as kind of vicarious, like, I could do better than that. But a lot of people end up being like, never makes it. It's like, yeah, but you didn't. You know? I'm sorry if that's kind of an out of context point that he's making. It's kind of built better, much better than that. But like, there's that idea of like, people who complain about anime YouTube shouldn't really complain if they don't do it themselves. You know, I think that a lot of the people who do make it, like myself and like What the What, or, you know, people that might have their criticisms of it, or Digibro, the people who have their criticisms should be the ones also doing it themselves. You know, I think it lends to credibility and a showing that you actually do care, and not just like you're just a jeerer on the sidelines, not affecting the game, right? So it's like you have to put your own best foot forward and make that content that you say is lacking in anime YouTube. But then, you know, in terms of your actual critiques, you can't just say Mathwas is boring, right? You're like, okay, that's certainly gonna help me. You know, like, do you want Mathwas to have better content? I like to think, you know, it's like if you watched the video, if you clicked on it, and also you make a point of this, like, yeah, I didn't watch all of it. That's another thing. Unfortunately, you have to confirm that you've watched all of it. I admit that there's a lot of anime YouTube videos that I watched here that I didn't watch to completion. I was like, I don't have anything to say about this. There was a few that made it onto this list initially, and then upon reflecting, I'm like, I don't think I have anything too specific to say about it. That happens. So you gotta have to take that because, you know, it lends credibility. If you want to be listened to, it's okay to vent. You can vent, and that's why I'm not like dissuading you from doing that. But I'm saying, you know, if you want it to stick, if you want the more spaghetti to stick, I'm just saying that that's something that you might want to consider. Is just to give yourself credibility, lending yourself to make it worth listening to, right? If it's just a guy bitching, then it's like, I'm not gonna listen to you. Then nothing happens. Anyway, I liked this video. Felt like kind of an id explosion, and I'm happy that as YouTubers like yourself making sort of stuff like this, and it was interesting. Nice. Here's another video. RagnarRox, not necessarily an anime YouTuber, but did talk about Junji Ito, and I do like me some Junji Ito videos that are positive. Junji Ito's Slug Girl and the Horror of Being Different Monsters of the Week. You know, it's indecent because ultimately it's like, it didn't wow me, knock my socks off, anything like that. Even though the editing is very impressive and nicely polished, and it has a lot of really good points, talking about, you know, the value of Slug Girl, about dysphoria, kind of paralleling it to Kafka's The Metamorphosis, giving all the narrative and thematic parallels that those two works have. It's not just body horror. It's not just like shock terror and everything. A lot of people like dismissing Junji Ito. I know people that like to dismiss Junji. They say they've read all his works and it's all crap. I know those people. I've not read all of his works. I've only read Uzumaki myself. But there's clearly a success there, and a level of craftsmanship that you really gotta at least appreciate on a surface level. You know, the guy knows how to panel. The guy knows how to draw. You know, and it's really interesting stuff, and does the job. But I really liked that RagnarRox really took to this specific short story, that he takes the first third of his video to really go out in detail and articulate it to people. I like that, you know, he could do that because it's so short, but he really went kind of almost panel for panel describing the entire story, and then afterwards really talked about its parallels to Kafka, and then generally what it means to be different, and paralleling it to dysphoria, how the outer world reacts to yourself and how you experience it. I don't think the parallels are all that strong. Like, it's not perfectly one for one, but as someone who likes to make these comparisons and parallels and stuff like that, and making a video on it myself, kind of doing that sort of analysis, I really liked this. And I felt good about watching it, and I recommend it to people. I don't know if the people who don't like Junji Ito will watch it, because those are the people who need to watch it the most, unfortunately. But like, you know, really good Junji Ito video. Didn't wow me. That's all. It's not indecent, but yeah, I liked it. Nice job. And last, I'm going to talk about Canipa Effect for a similar reason why it's indecent, because it's like it didn't wow me or anything. It wasn't like the most definitive, you know. But still, God, it's fucking Canipa Effect. He's great about specifically about this shit. Talking about breaking down Beastar's incredible animation with the resources he's able to get and the fact that he seems he can read Japanese. I'm pretty sure it looks like, I mean, he's living in Japan, so like, you know, and he's doing these interviews with people and other, you know, for Anime News Network, and really knows the sources and has just the best understanding of what makes Beastar's animation fantastic and impressive in that way. And you know, separating his own opinion from it. It's like, look at the technical mastery on display. This is how they made a shot like this. And this is the challenges of making an animation like this. And making a lot of really great points to where it's like, yeah, and he's just getting better and better on commentating CG animation. Like, he was able to do this like a year ago. And he was starting a sort of a big series on it, but he didn't really do anything much with it. But, I really like that he's still making videos, even despite being kind of moved on from the whole sphere, I suppose. You know, he's kind of elevated himself. But I really like that he talked about this, and a very good technical video. Generally going to recommend that to you guys, of course. Definitely watch it. And there's going to be a part 2 to this as well. Hell yeah to this, of course. But it's just, you know, it didn't wow me or anything like that. The COVID's starting to kick in, boys. Fuck! I'm going to talk about the best videos of the week! The stuff that really knocked my socks off. I am going to talk about this Beyond Ghibli video about the haunting calm of Mushishi, which is a good title, by the way, because the haunting calm is talking about how unsettling Mushishi is, but like at the same time, you're not on edge about it. It's not like a horror thing, even though what's happening could very well be seen as like a horrific thing, but its tone and abject calm about the whole series really puts you at ease. And it's like, I didn't feel, even when an episode ends kind of poorly or like, you know, badly for the characters, you're still like, wow, you're forced to ruminate on it instead of being like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? And Joe gets that perfectly. So I think the title, check. And the rest of the video, big check. I think this is exactly your wheelhouse. I think this is exactly what you should be talking about. This is so on brand for your editing style, for such incredibly thoughtful clip selection. Like, it's not just random, whoa, whatever. Like, this seemed very meditative, specific clip selection, and like, there's a little effects magic here and there, but for the most part, this was very like mostly just clip selection. But you didn't need much else. I feel it was, man. But it's not just the visual component, but it's your tone of voice and how you're approaching this particular show. You know, it's still kind of the summary and kind of giving the general premise of it and recommending the show as a review of that in that way. But it didn't feel like that whatsoever. And you generally immerse yourself in the atmosphere of the actual show, and you're embodying that and you're conveying that through the video. I love when, because like I watched this other video and I stopped like a minute in of this one video of he was talking about this show, but the music choice was this weird generic hardcore rock thing. It didn't seem to match the show and didn't have any, it was just kind of footage over it and seemed kind of whatever. Maybe that was just the show that he was talking about. It was like watching an episode of Mushishi, specifically, and that was incredible. And on reflection, I'm thinking just like a lot of the shows you're talking about recently, Haibane Renmei, Kyoto Animations Works, like this is stuff that you're great at. I think the Ava video is good. I think the Haikyuu video is okay. I think the Berserk video is pretty good. But like, this is the stuff you should be talking about, I think. Maybe you don't want to like pigeonhole yourself into something, and I understand that, but this is the stuff that you're great at. I'm telling you that, and not just because you're a patron. And you're like, I hope that doesn't pressure you. And it's like, No, it won't. I swear. No. But like you're talking about like at the end of the video, I like the little puns that you make, not pun, but like little deadpan joke you have at the end where it's like hit the like button. Uh of like oh, you want me to instead jump off a cliff, or I don't know. Whatever you say. You say a lot more tasteful things than that. But like you mentioned like if instead you want me to talk about interspecies reviewers, and I'll immerse myself in a brothel of succubi, and you know that's funny. But if you genuinely made a video about hentai, which one of your patron awards is, and I think you're just that's kind of more of a meme sort of thing, and maybe you'll make something similar to that, you know, as a April Fool's joke maybe. But like, I would not want to see that, only because you're so good at this other stuff. It's like, why would you waste your talent? You're so great at this other thing. Why do you spend time in this thing? You know, that's my thing about it. I think find more stuff like Mushishi specifically and talk about that, because you're great at that. And I think you could be a very good advocate for this kind of content, because as somebody made a video on last week or the week before, talking about slice of life anime that people don't understand why we watch it. People might, Mushishi generally has some not backlash, but like people who are like, it's too boring, you know, or like they're not into it or whatever, or they fall asleep to it or something, you know. And I'm happy you didn't even acknowledge that. At least I don't think you did. I'm happy you didn't. But like, this is the stuff that you're great at, and I think you really should continue with. And maybe you found that, maybe you realized that, maybe your patrons and general fans have noticed that, because you know they voted for Mushishi and like, oh yeah, he'd be great talking about that, and it's true, they were. So maybe that you've all realized that, and I'm just I don't know, I'm just stating the obvious. But this was fantastic. I love videos. This is a general note for everybody. Theming your video based on the show that you're talking about is really important. It immerses, it sells what you're trying to say even better. That's hopefully why I'm trying to make my Gurren Lagann video hopefully very propulsive and optimistic and energetic and cool. That's kind of the fact. Hopefully I can do that, you know. We'll see. But that's the sort of thing I'm talking about, where it's like you take the subject and you build the house based on the subject. And I'm like, I'm gonna talk about Mushishi now. It's an anime that's made by Artland. You know, it's like whatever. But this was great. Maybe A plus. I guess A plus would be like, I can't believe it. But A is like blessed content. TheCynicClinic was the video I was talking about earlier. Ultraviolet, The Room, and Finding Good in Bad Movies. I really liked this video, and I really liked you talking about it. CynicClinic is really cool with his visual panache, I should say. The panache being like certain visual style and some drawings. He didn't have too much drawings in this one, but like some of the edits and stuff were so funny. You're a funny guy. Did anyone tell you you're a funny guy? Nah, but whatever. It's like, thanks, I guess. It was really fun to watch, and I really liked the media you talked about. I had never seen Ultraviolet, but the appreciation you have for it, and like what's important to distinguish between The Room and Birdemic. That comparison was fantastic, where he's talking about how, you know, you could make fun of Birdemic with the looping GIFs and the poor production and bad acting or whatever, but then, you know, there's not a lot of good meat to chew on. It's like, yeah, of course it is. Who cares, you know? But something like The Room, there's actually a lot more interesting things going on, where there's actually very technically competent people making certain shots, but then they're making crap, you know? Like, they have a terrible script, but it's acted very well. Or it's acted very poorly, but like, that was an interesting line. Or there's an interesting cinematic parallel between this and Citizen Kane, you know? And, you know, a lot of people find enjoyment and interest in that. And he makes a great point where he's like, I was talking about Australian exploitation films, or talking about kind of the shitty period of the 2000s where they were just kind of running out of ideas, or I don't know. I'm not too versed in it, but it was just like they were just a lot of bad movies in that period. That did not do very well, critically or financially, I guess. And his friends would ask him, "So why do you watch? Do you like those? Do you really like those movies?" And he's like, "Hell no, fam." And then he has this paragraph that shows up for like a second or two. It's the funniest shit. Like I would watch the video just for that clip, that thing again. I don't want to repeat it. I don't want to go. I'm tempted to just get to the video now and read it for you. To be honest, it's so funny. It's so funny. I might tweet it. Oh God, it's so funny. But it's just like, no, I don't like the film in the way that I like the other films. I like to talk about them. I like to dissect them. And like, wait, that was actually a good shot. About in Ultraviolet, where it's like, there's some things where it's like, wait, this is kind of nice. In the overall, like, but the same movie has this other bullshit in it. And I love some of the quotes towards the end where it's like, a clock is right twice a day. It's so true. And I've had those experiences. We have a movie democracy of things with some of my friends. We used to, not these days. But and we would watch stuff like Samurai Cop, and I would be in the back like, hey, that shot's not bad. Or like, wow, I like the set design here. It was fun. And there's stuff like that to find good in bad movies that makes the bad movies enjoyable. It's not just watching a bad, mediocre movie for the sake of watching it to make fun of it or whatever. It's the good shit. I think there was one thing is like, a bad movie does have its Kino or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's so positive. And even in the bad, in the face of bad stuff, and still not trying to say that it's good in that way, because I'll admit I've fallen in that trap personally. But like, I love that, and I love this video. It's super polished and sharp, and really charismatic guy, and your guy. It was awesome. It was a banger. I liked it a lot. Next, let's talk about another patron. There's like 3 videos in here that are my patrons. I swear I don't have a bias. I'm being honest, okay? Oh, God. Seaweed Ambassador. We're talking about Ocean Waves, A Personal Connection. And he's really acknowledging kind of the fault that a lot of people have with the movie of having a kind of a poor ending. And he's finding a way to justify it. And he's like, this is why they went the way they did. And he's articulating the whole arc of the movie for people like me who haven't seen it yet. I don't know. It's not really on my radar. I haven't heard good things about it, but now I'm interested. It's a good thing. Hell yeah. The visuals are very interesting because it's a Ghibli movie. So you're like, uh-oh. Watch it while you can, right? Beyond Ghibli actually got his Ocean Waves video taken down before I could see it. It's back up and I haven't seen it yet. Sorry, fam. But this had a really good way of going about doing that. There were some parts where you just have it very generic, like in a cropped thing with like a moving background and stuff like that. But a lot of the time, I wish you did this the whole time, to be honest. Not a critique or anything, but like, I loved overlaying with live action footage that you seem to have taken yourself and overlaying that this kind of equal transparency of stuff. Or other times, like, where it's in gray and you're just manipulating the in a way that's like aesthetically different. You're not manipulating the footage to make it look bad. Oh my God. Fuck, I hate that. But it was really interesting, and it was paralleling yourself. I wish there was more of that. Maybe I know it's probably high demand, and maybe you couldn't go out and film more based on circumstances. But it was sick. I loved that. And you were able to kind of have a personal connection, and which kind of like paralleling your own life. It's like, if I saw my ex in that situation, I'd feel like that. I loved that. And that's the authentic personal shit that let's Kino around here. Around these parts, we call that Kino. But like, yeah, it was awesome, and a good justification for it. Maybe I love the title's a trap a smidge baity in terms of not baity, but like I think it could have worked where it's like, ending's bad, but I liked it, or something like that. I don't know. That's not a bad thing. I liked how it's titled. It's cute. And of course, the accompanying AMV is really interesting. All of it's really cool. Hell yeah to this. And like, this was like, I've seen Ocean Waves content before, and you're honest about it too. But you really sold this. It was like, oh, that's what the movie's about. Oh, cool. Maybe I'll watch it and have the expectations of that. And I think I'm actually happy I watched this first, even though it kind of spoils the ending, whatever. But like, it's not really an ending to be spoiled at, right? I'm happy I watched it before I watched the movie, to be honest, because I'm looking forward to watching it now. That's the mission accomplished. Nice job. I liked that a lot. My phone is going a little low on batteries. So I need, if you see some sort of difference for any reason, there shouldn't be too much of a difference.
2 hours later.
Yeah, it's a little later in the day. But we're moving on to this next video, and it's a classic. Well, it's an OG YouTuber. It's your boy Glass Reflection. I think this is the first time I'm talking about him in months. Well, I don't think I've covered a single video from him until now. But this is something I definitely wanted to talk about. Chihiro Furu must-watch anime. So he's talking about Chihiro Furu, particularly the first season. A little in the trend because the third season was airing in 2019. But this is a much different kind of video. Like, this is a different vibe from him. He has so much more going on with the editing here. He has like a newish camera, or he did something with his filming himself, because it looks so much more professional. Like, his setup was not bad recently. I looked at his last video, and his last video didn't have any footage of him, so maybe there was something there. It was like, oh, in the middle of buying a new camera or something. But the camera before, like, there wasn't so much going on visually when he was filming himself. It's very standard, and that's everybody, right? But this particular video, he's doing a lot of edits with himself, like filming and like zooming in on a pointing and like panning, and there's so much more involved in the editing to where I was honestly like, is he editing this himself? This is so different from him, his usual stuff. And for the better, I really liked it. I don't think this is anyone different. And it's really professionally done, and I really want to commend him for kind of some cool stuff. There were some parts that were kind of funny, where he was like zooming, he did like this motion, and it zoomed in on it, and it felt kind of like something a parody would do a little bit, but unironically. So that was a little funny. But I liked it, and I was like, oh man, this shows I'm engaged, I'm paying attention, you know, at least maybe as a content creator. Maybe this isn't something most people would pick up on. But he was something I was really engaged with, and he's always been a really sharp editor, and he's gotten better. Years he's done this. He's been doing this for over a decade. And it shows, at least, you know, unlike some other people. But this is awesome, and he seems to have really taken a new step, and this is a new branding of sorts, a must-watch anime thing. It's not a review. You think in Glass Reflection, it's like, oh, standard-ass review, story, characters, animation, art, whatever. And he doesn't necessarily do that. He's done that for years. It was his whole bread and butter for years and years and years. He pioneered it, essentially. But here, he doesn't give a review at the end. He doesn't give like a score, certified frosty, or anything like that at the end. I think it's obvious that he thinks it's certified frosty, right? So it's not about that. It's not about giving a sort of review or anything like that. It's really about recommending this show. Pretty straightforward, like straight shooting. It was so specific and focused and not whatever. Like, the whole thing's scripted. There's some levity to it, but there's so much less kind of casualness to it. His videos for the longest time, these past couple of months and over the year and so on, he's kind of more of a casual, like, kind of resting on his laurels sort of deal. Not like in a smug way, but in a way that's like, you know, I've done this for a while. I'm talking about the seasonal stuff and the first impressions, and people hear my take on it and stuff and everything like that. And he's been a very modest creator in that way, and I've always kind of respected him for that, never having kind of I'm an OG, whatever. You know, I think a lot of people might have that if they were in his position. I wouldn't have. I'd be tempted. But he's a really modest, a simple guy, and it's like he's really being earnest and focused with here, and it was awesome. It was like really seeing a guy who's done this for years, putting his real game face on and still putting out awesome shit. I think he did G.I.Fu a really good service. Maybe not completely covering it like so thoroughly and everything, but really addressing a lot of stuff. It was still in sections. I actually should say it was still in like sections of the video, but it wasn't story characters, blah blah blah. It was like part one, this thing about it, right? The flashback, or it was describing the show kind of holistically. And I think that's the approach that YouTube needs to go in, and that's really refreshing. I think Scamboli is sort of trying, working his way out of that too, because I think a lot of us are tired of that old format. So I think he realized that, and Arcana at least, and really put out a really good video, I think. It was really good. And he's saying that, algorithm is making him want to talk about the seasonal stuff, so that's been mostly his focus for a lot of the channel recently, doing a lot of first reactions and a lot of reviews on newer shows that just wrapped up, and fair, especially if he's still trying to appeal to the algorithm, and because he's relying on ad revenue to make his ends meet, right? Still has a Patreon and everything, but that is fair. That's kind of what you have to do in a way. But he's like, this is a test run. He's like, we want to talk about stuff that's this old. And G.I.Fu is not that old comparatively, but it is old in like the seasonal anime sense. It's way old, 2011, I think. Maybe a little sooner, 2012, somewhere around there. But he's like, this show, and even older. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's the stuff I want to fucking champion. Let's go. So this was really great, and I really want to shout it out as a yeah, that was fantastic. I loved that a lot. Nice job. Okay, I got another video from technically a patron, and they're at the tier where they could make this a patron review sort of thing, but they didn't really frame it like that. And it's from them. So, and it came out this week. So, they can still have their one. I'm not even going to count it technically. Yata Kun put out a video called The Red Spider Lily Anime's Hell Flower. And this is talking about the Hanasaki. I think that's the Japanese term for it. Hanasaki is flower language. I believe that's the term. Pretty sure. Where basically every flower represents a different phrase or different saying and has a whole cultural connotation behind it. And there's so many examples in anime for every different flower, and it's like every flower you see, there's some significant reason behind it. And I honestly did not know that. As someone who's watching it for so long, I know that there's a lot of flower imagery or whatever, but like there's a specific Hanasaki thing. This is a whole thing. And it makes sense because I actually happen to be watching Heartcatch Precure right now with a group watch with some people. And every episode, it's mostly centering on flowers. It's very flower-centric show. There's some other things, but it's a lot of flower stuff. Particularly, every character, Monster of the Week, whatever, they have like their soul represented by a flower, and every flower is different every episode. And then that flower is like wilting, and the bad guy like takes advantage of it and takes their soul, whatever. And at the end of the episode, the character, usually the main character, like is like, sunflower is representative of sunshine, or whatever. And it has like the connection to it. It's like, yeah, this usually means this. And they have kind of the thematic connection. So I'm learning some stuff. And so that was a really interesting connection. I was like, oh, when are they going to talk about Heartcatch? They didn't, but I was like, oh wow. So particularly the bulk of what this video is about the red spider lily, this particular flower that represents hell and death and all sorts of different things. And Yata Kun goes category by category with each different representation with different cultural backgrounds, and it's very well researched, very well read, and specifically focuses on one scene of a different show each time. So there's Paranoia Agent, there's Doro, there's analysis of Hellgirl, and what was the other one? Madoka, that's right, the third Madoka movie. And each one is different and has a different connotation to it, it's exploring all the different ways without making it seem too overwhelming. And so it was really focused, had a lot of nice coverage, and I learned a lot. And this is the kind of AniTube content that's great. And this is the stuff that we should be championing instead of bemoaning that AniTube's bad, right? It's oh, it's all bad. Oh, Math Whiz. And it's what what's the use of that? I think the really important, it's kind of a 3-tier sort of thing. It's like, you got to make your own stuff that you want to see in it, right? And embody what you want to embody, what you're championing, or something like that. You got to be coming from a place that you want the person to actually be doing better and not just hate them out of some weird thing, or just, I'm bored, or, you actually want to give them something constructive, so you actually want to see them improve, and champion them as a fellow content creator, and not just as a me versus them sort of thing. And the third thing is to actually champion the stuff that is good and the stuff that's fantastic. The stuff that we want to be seeing, and to encourage the person to, yes, that was an awesome video. I really like the editing in this too. It's super involved. It has a lot of different tricks going on without making it seem like stale. And that's a really tough thing with editing, I think, is when like you think of a trick and you just keep using it over and over. But none of it felt like that. I really like the title cards you made towards the beginning when you're describing what Hanasaki is, and it has like the flower, and then like the word, and then it has some like effect and stuff, and a different aesthetic each time, and it really conveyed the thought really, really well, and just really good clip selection, and everything was really, really polished. And I mean, you've been making videos for a year now, it seems, at least. I think you're doing really well, and just getting better and better, and just really original ideas that, like, not a lot of people on anime YouTube are talking about. So this is fantastic. Everybody who is, fellow content creators, check this one out. This is awesome. And I'm not just saying that because you're a patron. I swear. And finally, well, I saved it for last because I wanted the watch time. You have to skip to the end. I gotcha, bitch. Oh, fuck. DouchebagChocolat. Demolition D. Literally him. Not even a meme. Like, literally the guy made a video. Not even a shitpost. A 15-minute video on genuinely unnerving anime. Now, this is interesting. Because it's best... Do I think it's the best video of the week? I liked all these videos for very different reasons. But I had a jolly good time with this one. I ain't gonna lie to you. I saw some people, like some of my mutuals, kind of downplaying this one and kind of like, I don't know about that. It didn't do much for me. And I was like, fair. I'm not surprised. But even before seeing it, I was like, the fact that the guy still has an audience. They came back. Like, his audience is still here. This got 270,000 fucking views. It's just awesome that, like, after so long, he's able to still put a video out and it still gets gangbusters and stuff. That's really exciting. And the fact that, like, he's using his platform to promote anime that, like, isn't talked about that much. Not even, like, the Shikis, or... If this was made by literally any of these other fucking goons, like some of these guys who are running for clout and everything, they'd talk about Elfen Lied. They would talk about Another. They would talk about Shiki. And no harm to those other shows. And I think Demo actually kind of made a commentary on it. He just thinks a lot of them are silly or something like that. But he didn't bog the video with that. He showed them, but he didn't put those other shows down to put his shows up. Thank you. Class fucking act. Like, this guy's still fantastic. And watching this video in particular, I was like, oh, I think I actually get what because I've been kind of not on Digest, but like I think I may have mentioned it on Digest, but like we've all adopted his style at this point, and so many people are doing what he does in terms of the kind of the memey, shitposty, reactionary, dry delivery type of observations and stuff. And a lot of people are aping off of his style, and he's still got it. He's still better than all. He got so many laughs out of me, and I think the key reason is because he is so well read, and the stuff that he's pulling as those memes is stuff that I genuinely have not seen before, as used as like reactions or as a joke or any, like, literally just. What is that? It was funny. He's still funny, and he's still, like, creative and sharp, and he's got it. And again, I love that he's peddling these lesser-known stuff. Look, Perfect Blue is not a obscure anime movie. but it's obscure to these fucking goons that he's attracting. He had this section in the video where he has like a little parade of like all the comments he gets and still apparently gets about getting a first reaction video or a seasonal impressions video, which he again pioneered. That's what everyone fucking does now. And he still gets those comments. And I can't fucking imagine his lack of interest being fueled by people just still commenting on his videos years afterwards and be like, where's the next seasonal anime impression?
Fucking phone, please stop farting.
Same thing. I can't imagine as a creative, as somebody who's like really sharp and like well read in anime. Like, this is a video that he's promoting Kon, Yuasa, like two completely obscure, I think obscure. Look, if I'm calling Joe and Gil out, okay? Look, if you guys knew about some of these anime, the paint on glass and some of this other stuff, those two in particular, if you knew about that beforehand, power to you. I did not. I like to think that I'm fairly well read in this. So for Demo to recommend some stuff in the video like this to this many people shows that I haven't even fucking heard about. That's awesome. That's fucking dope. Like, this got me like, oh my god, he needs to totally see Well-Ordered Restaurant from 93. Very similar kind of texture and art style and like feeling, in my opinion. He would love that, I think. Maybe he's seen it. That's the thing. I feel like he may have seen it at this point. He was fucking championing cat fucking soup. Hell yeah! I'm into that. He was championing Magnetic Rose, and it's like, I don't care if this is like stuff that, yeah, we all know about on our level, and it didn't do much for us. I understand that. But that's so valuable for these guys that are like, oh yeah, what's this angel's egg thing? You know, I really like that he says like, thank God this got a newfound appreciation for angel's egg since I left, and now I can throw the script in the trash. And then analysis video of angel's egg, that was so funny. I just love his humor still. It's not like I was a big Demo fan, but like, he got me several times with this, and like, I just love it, you know? And I was like, man, I'm so happy he's back. I'm so happy he's doing what he's doing and sticking to his guns. Please don't make another seasonal anime video. I don't want you to. Don't satisfy these plebs. Give them the I've forgotten the word. The good shit? I don't know. I don't care anymore. That was awesome. And it's so cool that he's back, man. Unfortunately, you know, I want to address another thing. There were some aspects of this video that made it seem like, oh yeah, he made this video in like 2017 when he said he was going to make it. It was like, oh, I'm working on a Halloween video because he had some Flip Flappers footage. And there was a point during the middle of his Angel's Egg video that had a difference in delivery. Something very different. Something more drier, grounded, something a little different. Or just different audio quality or something. And I was like, it's like, yeah, this video does clearly seem to have been made. And he was like complaining about the partnership program that happened like years ago and no one gives a fuck anymore because it didn't happen. You know, there's some dated stuff in there in a 2020 video. But then it's like, oh, why'd you put that out? Well, to be fair, that's going to happen to all of us, I think. Like, a lot of anime YouTube videos are made in the context of when they were made. As, of course, art always is, you know? It is a product of its time. My Berserk video, obviously, has aged because I says, imagine how Vinland Saga fans feel about not having an adaptation. Well, clearly they do now. Some people actually kind of don't like the adaptation, but yeah, many people do. So, there you go. Disproven, I guess. But, you know, a lot of people try, and, like, I try to make videos that, try to be a little timeless, but even if I make a little reference to something as kind of an offhand thing, it's going to be kind of a more recent example. Like, you know, I pull from Drifters in my Fukumoto video because that was a show that was coming out very close around that time, or I think it did. And, you know, so it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, that's weird, a Drifters reference, you know, in this this Fukumoto video I'm watching in 2020. So I mean, I don't really mind that there seems to be an aged quality to it on such a new video, because then it's like, you know, this was gonna age regardless. You know, if he made 20, like, he talks about Uzumaki at the end. He references how like Uzumaki's getting an adaptation. And there's a really good joke of using Tachyon Death Grip. That was amazing. That was the best video of the week. You fucking referencing Tachyon from Death Grips, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm down for this," because like the directors made some good shit. The Toronto City, yeah. Akunuhana, fuck yeah. And Mushishi, Tachyon. You know, hell yeah. But like him talking about Uzumaki coming out, it's like, you know, that's going to be kind of dated, because by the time, you know, because then it would come out eventually. I don't know when it will. I don't know why it's not come out yet. Interesting. But you know, that's okay. So I mean, I'm kind of willing to hand wave a lot of that sort of thing. And I get that this wasn't super additive to a lot of people. Maybe especially if like some of the jokes are kind of like, yeah, that could have been said in 2015, I guess. But he made me laugh again, because I think his winning formula to me is something that I think Jack Boy and Corey Eden are also doing really well. Is they're finding the stuff, they're finding references and visual things that aren't stale, that haven't really been used yet, or at least I haven't seen them be used. Maybe I don't watch that much meme content, or so, I don't know. But there's always a quality with both of those videos and with Demo here that like you're surprising the audience. You're not like using Doge or something. Not like Scamboli, you know, these guys are using Doge, but there's just something about it a lot of the time in that particular humor that just makes it just like, what? You know, it doesn't land, you know. But you know, sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't land. But yeah, I love this video a lot. It's awesome. It's good. I think that'll do it for this episode of AniTube Digest. Thank you so much for watching. You stay safe out there. I want to give a big thank you to my patrons that make this video possible. In particular, shout outs to Flugmorph, My Anime Pod, Unique Nemosaurus, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for supporting me, especially in such times. It means a lot. You guys have a great week. Yo, peace.